We're gonna go and deburr this. And this is a directional tool, so you wanna go in the right direction and not drop your pipe.
I just seen if you're paying attention.
All right, restart, cut.
Hey, good morning guys, it's Ben over at the Neighborhood Plumber. I am a master plumber, 15 years in the industry, and this morning we are at beautiful Flowery Branch. We got called out for a freeze break, and I'm super excited to see what we got, so let's check it out. All right. Well, that's not too hard to find. So last night, the customer called, and obviously they heard this and seen it. I walked them through getting their water off, but we must still have an issue because we still have water. So I'm assuming that based on seeing their old valve that maybe the gate valve didn't turn off all the way, or maybe the customer didn't get it tight enough. So one way to prevent this would be open a faucet so we can drain this system kind of before this freeze break area. So in this case, they've got a front faucet I see that we could open, and we could stop this draining in the house and get this draining outside. But let's go see if this gate valve is gonna turn off all the way so we can stop this water. Sometimes with these old gate valves, because they're compression style, you just gotta tighten it and then maybe go a little tighter or a little tighter. Sometimes they fail and they will not turn the water off, which in the case would have to be shut off at the street. If you're unaware of how to do that, the county will come out and shut it off for you. We recommend full port ball valves. That way it's on or off and there's no real in between or no miss to where you're gonna have this issue. Say this was in a ceiling upstairs or on some floors or hardwood floors or whatnot, you would not want to continue to have this drip when you go to sleep. Even that small stream of water throughout the night could end up being 20, 30 gallons of water. So it's pretty significant, even though they've got it controlled and down to a minor stream. So the valve's off now. I got it as tight as it can be. Let's go out front and let's see if we can get this thing drained down, stop this water here, and then we'll assess and get a game plan on repairing and getting them back up and running. All right, guys, we got all the water out of the system. Let's hop back inside and get this plan on this repair. All right, guys, we are back at the crime scene. We're gonna check this out, and I'm gonna maybe go over some stuff that happened to this situation and how to prevent this if you're a homeowner. We've had some super cold weather the past couple of days, and in southeast Georgia, this just doesn't happen often. I asked the customer if they left the faucet drip or left water run, and she did not. So when that happens and the water's not moving through these pipes, a freeze break can happen very quickly, especially when we're below freezing for a couple of days like we've had it. Some things I like to inform my customers or anybody who owns a home is get familiar with your system. You own a home, it's very important. A catastrophe could happen randomly. Cold weather definitely doesn't help. Know where your main shutoff valve is, know where your outside faucets or spigots are, know where the valves are at to turn those off. If you're planning any special trips, going out of town, or not gonna have anybody at the property, always a good idea, turn the water off, drain your system so you don't come home to a catastrophe like we've had here. So what is a freeze break? A lot of people don't even really know what a freeze break is, and a freeze break is something that occurs within the plumbing distribution system where water has obviously got to a point of freezing. Either heat was shut off, an area that's normally climate controlled wasn't climate controlled, or no moving water through the pipe to prevent that freezing. And when the freeze break does occur, all the water in the pipe will freeze, and when that happens, you have expansion. So in material like copper or CPVC, you're not gonna have that much expansion. So copper pipe will blow and literally swell and split, similar to what we have here. Another pipe that is very notorious for freeze breaks is CPVC. CPVC is a water pipe used hot and cold. It's a plastic pipe, and it will literally splinter and freeze, crack down the sides, and just literally shatter. Sometimes with freeze breaks, you do have a scenario where it did freeze, it expanded, and during the raise-in temperature, the pipe can thaw out, contract, and actually not burst like we've seen here. But you could see a swell in the pipe where the outside diameter is actually changed. PEX piping is very good piping for this situation because PEX pipe expands and contracts with the temperature. You're not gonna get a freeze burst like you will with copper or CPVC. All right, guys, we've seen the freeze break. We've talked about it. Let's get what we need. Let's get this cleaned up and let's get this water back on. How about it? And let's get it. All right, guys, you followed the journey this far. We're gonna give you a couple options on repairs and kind of talk about what we are going to do to get our customer up and running and get on to the next call. So with this being copper, we could do a traditional solder joint, but with that gate valve not turning off and all this water still in the pipe, it's gonna be a tough repair to do that. Also might take a little longer. Other alternative with this water would be to maybe use a compression style fitting. In that case, the water in the pipe is irrelevant and we could get the water on pretty quick, but compression fittings are kind of a thing of the past, and with SharkBite and their new technology, their phenomenal warranty, I think that we're gonna use a SharkBite Max and get this customer's water on quick. They've gotta get to work and we've got a lot more calls. So I am going to get some copper cutters. We're gonna cut this pipe about right here. We're gonna cut this pipe about right here. I always like to repair about 2 foot of pipe instead of, you know, we could cut it here and try to jam a new fitting in or jam a new piece of pipe, but this copper is old and this freeze break has swelled this pipe. So even though the break is right here, the outside diameter of this pipe close to this freeze break is not the true outside diameter of new copper. So we'll get this section of pipe out, we'll get some SharkBite Max fittings, which I'll show you guys in a few, and we'll get this thing back together and get the water on, get these customers on their way so we can get on ours. All right, we're gonna get this thing cut out of here. David, can I see those 3/4 roll cutters? Thank you, sir. And let me go ahead and get a good tape measure. So we're gonna cut this. With SharkBite fittings, you do not want your fitting butted up against another fitting. It would just cause for a big problem should that fitting be defective or you not get it on right, trying to get it back off. So you always want to have 2-3 inches before you get onto another fitting. So keep that in mind when you're installing SharkBites, that you do not want fittings butted up on fittings. So we are gonna cut this and get this cleared away, and we're going to cut right here. So when I'm doing this, I want to kind of see what's around me. You know, you wouldn't want to make this repair here just because everything's kind of in your way. So you want to have enough spot to be able to get in there and work and get your fittings slid on and make sure everything is installed properly. So I'm going to cut this out and I'm going to get this freeze break closer to you guys. Still got a little water in there, and let you see kind of how that freeze break happened. So that pipe will swell and blow right at the seam. Let me see that tape measure down there and we'll get a good measurement on this. So a couple other things you want to pay attention to is with SharkBite or SharkBite Max fittings is there's a special depth. So we're gonna get this cleaned up, and the depth chart is on the SharkBite website. So make sure to check that. SharkBite Max and the SharkBite standard fittings have different depths, insertion depths. So I am going to calculate based on my insertion depth, based on the spacing that is not gonna take any pipe. I still have to allow for this 1/2 inch of space between these two connectors. So when we get this pipe up here, we know we're gonna have 1.25 inch depth here, 1.25 inch depth here, and on our new section of pipe, but we also have to account for this 1/2 inch on each fitting to make sure that we can get these fittings in there, since this dead space is now taking up for pipe. So if our measurement was 22 3/4, we're gonna take off an inch and go to 21 3/4, so we make sure that we calculate this dead space on these fittings. So I'm gonna get these pipes cleaned up. I'm gonna get them marked for insertion depth, and then you guys will see us get this thing together. We wanna make sure that we're on to smooth copper. Homeowner had painted this pipe, so we're gonna go ahead, sand both ends, outer portion of the pipe, and we're gonna take SharkBite's deburring tool and get these burrs out so we don't have turbulence in our water line when we get this water on. So I'm gonna get some sandpaper. David, you got some sandpaper for me? We're gonna sand these up real pretty. Get all this water out. Cleaning this copper, you wanna make sure that everything is smooth. With this SharkBite Max fitting, the O-ring that connects to this copper and creates the seal is the most important part on the fitting, and we wanna make sure that there is no burrs to cut, damage, or rip that O-ring as we slide this fitting on. So it is very important to make sure that this pipe is clean, smooth, and free of any burrs or foreign objects, sharp pieces of metal. And I think this is good and pretty right now. So we're gonna get our deburring tool and get in here and clean this burr out. SharkBite's got this cool tool, all pipe sizes with deburring tools. So we're gonna stick this in here, deburr the outer edge of this. Deburring cutters, channel locks. So that deburring tool will clean the outside of the pipe, but with copper, you also want to deburr the inside of the pipe, because when this water is flowing through this pipe, if you do not get the burr off of the inside, it will create a turbulence in the line, which could be bad. So we want to get in here and get that burr out of there. David, go get me those bigger cutters, please. Let me see that deburring tool. Most of your traditional copper cutters are gonna have this deburring tool, but this, we ain't got much play. Now we're good and smooth. Good and smooth. Get all these metal shavings out of there. All right, and now I want to get my depth for my SharkBite on each end, which we know off their website is going to be 1 1/4 inches. I'm gonna mark this one 1 1/4 inches for that insertion depth. And we are gonna come over here and we are gonna mark this 1 1/4 inches for our insertion depth. So now, once we push this fitting on, we will know that it's going to be bottomed out. All right, guys, we're gonna cut this 21 1/4 inches. My wonderful apprentice is gonna have my cutters ready. So we're gonna get this pipe cut and repeat process. I'm gonna go ahead and deburr both ends of this pipe. We're gonna go and deburr this. And this is a directional tool, so you want to go in the right direction.
Sandpaper, got it. We're gonna sand this copper. This is new copper, so I already know it's gonna be pretty smooth, but we're just gonna get this oxidation off. We're gonna get it 1.25 inches. We're gonna get it 1.25 inches.
So now that we've got our pipe marked with our insertion depth, I do want to show you guys with our SharkBite Max fitting the depth of this pipe. So once your fitting is pushed on, you've got your mark, you can verify that that fitting is pushed all the way. If you skip this step or miss this step and this fitting is not pushed on the insertion depth that the manufacturer recommends, this fitting can leak, blow off, and cause a problem. And these steps are recommended by the manufacturer to protect the homeowners and you against a blowout. I want to show you guys, now that I've got my pipe cut, I've got my fittings, I know what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead, just to make it easier, instead of being on the ladder up there, I'm going to go ahead and push this fitting on. With the new Max fitting, they've taken out the stiffener and they've also made it much easier to slide on. So you can feel it click, you can slide it on fairly easy. Homeowner, strong, whatever, you're gonna slide, I slide and twist, and we're going to make sure we go beyond our mark. So now I know, with my mark, I know that this fitting is pushed all the way, it's bottomed out, and we've got our insertion depth covered. So we're gonna get up here, just double check everything is good. I'm gonna go ahead and just gently push this fitting on, twist as I'm pushing, and get that fitting bottomed out with our mark. We've got our play here for our other fitting. I'm gonna take our second fitting, and I like to get it on the existing pipe first. We're gonna push it on there, make sure it hits our insertion depth marks. Now I've got a little bit of play on both sides of my pipe. I'm going to spread this pipe and get this lined up and get this fitting pushed in and bottomed out. Try. I'm gonna try to. Now I've got it lined up, I'm gonna push and bring all of this together. So she is in, all my fittings are good. I'm gonna go through, double check all my depth marks are at or past my fitting. This one you can kind of see, but she's right there. This one got a little covered up. Now all of my fittings are in, double, triple checked. All right, our repair is made. I'm going to go ease this water on, and I'm gonna leave my apprentice David here to keep an eye on everything, make sure that we don't have any leakage or blowouts. So follow me over to turn the water on, and we'll go out front, close that front spigot, get this thing pressurized up, bleed all the air out, and get on to the next one. All right, so we're back over here where you guys have seen me turn this water off. We're gonna ease this back on. I've got this front faucet open. I'm gonna blow any air out of the system. So I'm gonna ease this on. We're gonna go shut that front spigot, and David is keeping an eye over on our repair to make sure we don't have any leaks. Let's go shut this spigot. So we've got good water flow here. All the air is pushed out. I'm gonna reach down here and turn this water off. And we're gonna go back inside and make sure everything is good to go. All right, the water is on, system is pressurized. We've bled all the air out. David kept an eye on this while I was turning the water on. I'm now doing my final checks, make sure that we don't see any water or have any drops. Doesn't get faster than this. All in all, I'd say this was a 10, 15-minute repair. I appreciate you guys joining me and can't wait to see you on the next one. Have a great week.